Hi, everyone, and welcome to the McRae's Growth Challenge podcast, Insight with B2B and manufacturing leaders, where we uncover their stories, strategies, and solutions to overcoming growth challenges in their industries. I'm your host, Maria, and in each episode, we will dive deep with founders, CEOs, and industry experts to explore how they scale, innovate, and lead in today's competitive landscape. So let's get started. Today we have Kaylee from the Nearshore Company. Nice to have you. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Yes, my name's
Awesome.
Kaylee Gruby. I'm Chief Revenue Officer with the Nearshore Company.
Awesome. So, Kaylee, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the Nearshore Company, how long you've been with the company? Tell us more.
Okay, so I've been with the Nearshore Company less than 6 months. My background is in manufacturing for more than 20 years, but this is the first time I'm on the other side of it, meaning we're a service company to manufacturers, and that's a very exciting thing. So what we do at the Nearshore Company is we enable companies to produce their product in Mexico without having to set up their own business entity in Mexico. So we're the experts in the administration, legal aspects, labor, import export, trade policy, and the like. So we can meet someone who wants to, for any variety of reasons, produce their product in Mexico, but they don't have to worry about the Mexico part of it. So there are varying levels of support that we provide, as simple as they're just using for us for our very top level expertise and being part of our shelter organization, and then all the way through to us manufacturing for them, and they say, tell me when it's done. The majority of our customers fall somewhere in between. We're like, well, I need you for this level of service, but not this. So there are varying degrees. So we do
That's
things
so
like find all of the talent for them in their departments, find real estate for them, train their teams, and bring them up to speed on activities like shipping and trade policy.
Yeah, those are such within even what you're doing, that's such a specific service. How many people are in the company?
Total over 2,000. You
Okay, so
could
it's a really, really, really big company. And how long is have you guys been around the Nearshore Company?
almost 35 years.
35 years. That's amazing. What do you know what started this idea of helping manufacturing in these type of ways?
Well, I think Mexico's unique in a way in that it takes a couple of years even to get set up. So even if you're a big company like Ford, it will take you a couple of years to set up a company in Mexico. And most people don't have that kind of time. The other thing driving it is if you go back, what, probably 50 years, where the trend became offshoring, the trend is now to do nearshoring, hence the name of the company, to simplify the supply chain in terms of time to delivery. For example, when you work with folks in Asia, it can take you a month and a half to get product stateside. Whereas if you're producing product in Mexico, it's 1 to 3 days by truck. One of the biggest driving forces right now is the availability of a willing workforce. So again, compounded by the fact that much manufacturing went offshore beginning 40, 50 years ago, the labor pool, the young talent in, let's say, the US, by example, is not culturally aligned to, hey, when I grow up, I'm going to work at the factory too. Those jobs aren't as prevalent. There's still a very large market of manufacturing that's labor intensive. And US manufacturers in particular are looking around and struggling for very long periods of time to fill plant positions. In Mexico, there's a ready and willing workforce that's remarkable. In fact, their turnover is half that of the US. So not only are there a ready and willing workforce, they turn over at a rate of half, and then conveniently their labor cost is cheaper. You add that to the fact that shipping is quick compared to putting something on a boat. There are other advantages as well, but those are the key ones that really motivate manufacturing companies and their owners to consider it.
I'm so curious to know if you have any clients that you work with who were doing offshoring and then had to switch to nearshoring, and what was the process like for them?
Well, that's a really good question. I'm working with one in particular on that right now. They're a US company that's been around probably almost 100 years. Over time, in order to remain competitive in their market, they moved all of their production to China. They didn't outsource it per se, they didn't use it as a supply chain. They set up shop in China, and all of their operations are there. And for a number of reasons, they're figuring out now how to move it to Mexico. I would say the biggest challenge we've encountered is development of the supply chain. So they have a range of products from very simple to very complex. When I look at their most complex product, the supply chain is still developing in Mexico, where it's not a one stop for the supply chain. So if I show up in China, I give them something really complicated, they say come back in 2 weeks and it's made. In Mexico, that's a little bit more of a multi-step process where it's not fully integrated. So our role as this service provider is to facilitate that. So we have tremendously successful relationships who have a team and a network of companies with certain skill sets. So through that type of support, again, something we do is help them develop that supply chain. Whereas in China, any one of us could show up at the front door and they're like, I have it. For us, we have it for you, and then we're going to do that work because Mexico is not fully there yet, but our job is to make that not our customer's problem.
That's awesome. So you guys are basically taking a combination of the workforce and the space and the intelligence of and the experience of implementing supply chains for so many different, I guess, products and industries, and knowing exactly what is it that they need in order to speed up the process, even if it's very complex. So it's the combination of both of those. That's very interesting. And I'm curious to know, what was the final straw for your client to be like, you know what, like we're out of here, like we can't do this so far away from home anymore?
Well, in this one particular instance, it's quite varied. Tariffs were part of the conversation. They also have some transition within their own workforce that said, how will we do this better or differently? There were some shifts in their own marketplace. And then, really, the biggest motivator is the geopolitical instability, the constant conflict between China and the US. And they're concerned that what if we can't get on a plane one day and access our equipment or our drawings or our product? That's the biggest motivator for them right now, is geopolitical entirely.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It
I
is like
think
a
I
very.
lost you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Let me know if I'm back.
Connectivity. You're good. You're good now.
Okay, perfect. No worries. The editors will take it out. That's you're so right. And I have talked to a few companies now on the podcast where the tariffs are part of a really big concern for them. And in general, the political climate all over the world, they want to have access to their product within seconds. You know, it's kind of when you have money in the bank, like it's your money, you want to be
Right.
able to access it and not like wait until the bank opens and you have to hop
Right.
through all these loops to get your basically your money.
Yeah, it's definitely the political discourse right now that's driving this one particular customer in general. Tariffs were part of it, but definitely not the driving force. And I think the perspective on tariffs is all over the board and where it's going to settle out. So I don't see a lot of activity of, okay, we have to move our business because of tariffs. People are feeling their way through it. So it's causing more conversations right now, but it's not a major motivator yet.
Got it. And how what you're offering sounds amazing for a lot of companies. How do people usually find you? How do you guys find business?
Well, the biggest way we find business is referrals and networking. That's really it. So we are familiar with a lot of non-government organizations within Mexico, for example. And as companies from all over the world decide, hey, I want to explore this Mexico thing, how's that work? they'll receive inquiries, and then we'll get some referrals from that. But most of our referrals come from people who we've interacted with, whether they're in the legal field, financial field, quality, manufacturing quality, obviously, and then of course our customer base. And one thing we endeavor to do is also continue to build value for our customers, and in a way where we make our customers customers of our other customers. So we're creating this ecosystem that's very supportive and feeding each other. And so then they're doing the same thing and saying, I have this supplier that could be in this role and be in the plant next door to me. So it's really about navigating or cultivating rather an ecosystem referral network, because all the marketing in the world doesn't translate. I think the term nearshore is a very foreign concept at present. Even people who are in manufacturing for a long time don't know that word. They're hearing reshoring, and there's a whole lot of plays on that terminology. But I think there's a long way to go yet to educate, particularly the US, on just what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. There is a lot of new solutions that are coming up across a lot of different fields that have names that people don't even know what they mean, even though they probably could use the education on doing that. Um, I know you're here on the podcast. Obviously, that's part of the thought leadership that you guys are implementing. What other methods are you guys using for thought leadership and educating people on this wonderful option of nearshoring?
Well, we do sponsor seminars. We recently partnered with the Baker Institute at Rice University, and it wasn't just our organization. We brought in economists, we brought in government leaders, both on the U.S. and the Mexico side, and those types of environments are great for navigating the conversation of, okay, well, what if I'm thinking of this? What could I encounter? So it takes it a step further than it's a concept. What does it really mean from a labor standpoint, from a utility standpoint, from an internet standpoint? Because, if you're not resident in Mexico and you're thinking of moving your business there, you're not understanding infrastructure, positive or limitations in that space. So having those types of venues and creating more of them are very helpful. We do a lot of interviews, we do a lot of articles, and we're just trying to keep those moments and environments to keep the conversation going. We also participate in industry events where one or both of our co-CEOs are speaking, as well as other members of our organization.
What's your landscape looking like? Like, who do you have a lot of competitors? Are you guys like the top dog? Like, what's your, with these emerging political climate, I can only imagine there's other people who are probably thinking about offering similar solutions and things like
Sure.
that. Tell me a little bit about the landscape and your competitors and how you differentiating yourself.
That's a great question. There are a lot of them, but there's only a handful of us that have been doing this for a long time. I would say literally a handful of us, and our reputation is known for being flexible. But one of the big differentiators between us and others is that we don't hold real estate. We aren't developers. We're very focused on creating a customized service package and partnering with that client. So we look at each opportunity as a time to solve a problem for this potential client. And so they give us a picture of what they need and what their operation looks like, and we find them a facility they can lease that's within a viable distance of a large population of people, so it's very easy to recruit and staff. We obviously manage all of the paperwork, all of the legal things, but then because also, and I haven't mentioned this, we're manufacturers ourselves. We do some of our own manufacturing. We can bring a lot to the table in exactly how to facilitate this process. We can help them understand some of the nuances of the culture that impact their process, whether it's, how a line flows or how potential employees might respond and so on. The point is, when you ask about how we're different from other people, is really that because we're not trying to sell space, we know process. We know how to execute. We know how to bring them efficiency, um, improvements in their productivity. And that is evidence not just because we say so, but when you think about a shelter operation and these types of manufacturing services, it makes sense that companies enter this arrangement with the idea that long term, this is a stepping stone and they are going to open their own Mexican entity, and that's perfectly fine. So through that, we expect those things to happen, but they don't really happen with us very much. So the point is, getting back to how we're different, our competitors have an average customer tenure between 4 and 5 years. Our average customer tenure is over 13 years. So
Wow.
our objective is to make ourselves indispensable in partnership to our clients, so it's just easier to stay.
Yeah. It sounds like once they start working with you, like that's it. They're not going nowhere. This is this they where are you gonna go? We're the best.
Right. Right.
And
So it's more than saying that it's really evidenced by the customer tenure.
yeah. So from what I'm understanding there, when you were saying you guys don't hold real estate, you're basically, I guess, like a lot of your competitors, they have the locations and they're like, okay, well, we have a location, but you have like the processes and the systems and the legal everything. You're not just saying, hey, we have a location, you can use it for whatever you want. It's more like, hey, what do you want? Let us find you the best spot and the best processes in order for you to make that happen. It's almost like reverse engineering.
Right, that's exactly what we do, and the customers are as unique as the products they make, and they all have different preferences, and and the nice thing is, whenever we find a building, it doesn't have to be perfect. That building's owner, the landlord, works with us if we have to. In one case, we're working on a product that's 12 feet wide. They're not going to load that long waste, so okay, we're going to modify that building and have wide doors, right? Those are all possible things. So we can customize that. Everything else about the location is right. They just need bigger doors. Not a problem. They need a little more ventilation. Not a problem.
One trend that I'm noticing with a lot of guests on our podcast that are in manufacturing and are doing well for themselves, like rarely do we get a guest who's like really struggling, even though everybody could use more business, of course. It's really the flexibility, and it really comes from the top. Whether it's flexibility on how you're promoting yourself, the type of products that you're offering, or how you're servicing your clients. Like the companies that seem to be doing the best are the ones that are willing to be flexible and be really open-minded to the facts that people's needs are changing. How people want to operate is changing. Like it doesn't matter how you did things for the past 50 years if nobody else is interested in doing that. You trying to drill that down into somebody who doesn't want it is just going to push them away, because there's so many people out there who are thinking outside of the box and thinking, okay, how can I fit myself into how they want to do things,
Right.
so I can be of service and build new relationships.
Absolutely. I think that's really an advantage from how we approach the business.
Where do you guys see yourself in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
Well, that's a great question. It depends on how we see ourselves in a number of different ways.
Yes.
I can't expand on it right now, but we completed a major acquisition last week, which will enhance and diversify our offerings from a service perspective, making us more of that one-stop turnkey location. As much as we weren't fully turnkey before, we try and make it so the customer doesn't feel any of that. But this is a very important step forward for our company. I do think we'll continue to expand. Obviously, we have very aggressive growth plans over the next 5 years, and we're very excited about continuing the business model that's serving us well.
That's awesome. And as we wrap up here today, any one piece of advice for mature industries and companies that, want to stay up to date with the times? Like, what would you, one piece of advice?
Up to date comes, I want to say. I would say keep learning, which sounds very cliche, but I'll recommend this. Explore voices you wouldn't ordinarily subscribe to and listen to a podcast. The best example I could give you would have nothing to do with manufacturing, but maybe you're a CNN type viewer from a political perspective. Maybe you listen to Fox for a week. So that's a tangible example everybody can understand. So if your mindset of this is always my source of knowledge, maybe I can diversify a bit. So we all agree we should keep learning, keep growing. But if you embrace the idea of listening to new voices, I think that's where the real learning comes in.
Yeah, listen to the other side, even the people that you disagree with. Just listen to what they say,
Absolutely.
even if you don't take anything away. Just hear what they're talking about.
Because I think it triggers your perspective. We're
Yes.
always looking, on a personal level, we want to be more empathetic, and that's easy to do when you hear certain stories. And the same is true of business. If you're in millwork and woodworking, follow some stuff in plastics for a week and see what they say, right? If you're in supply chain, start following things in sales. Look at a different facet of the business from either a functional perspective or a vertical perspective, and see if you see the same trend, which you'll see a lot of the same trends. But when you hear about some of their business problems, you start to view your business a little bit differently too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a good piece of advice, and the way that you explained it makes complete sense because it's not cliche at all. It's about understanding all the moving pieces around you so you're not so pigeonholed. And if you can actually take yourself out of it and
Right.
just look at it from the different perspective, you can solve problems that maybe you didn't think even existed if you just continued down the path that you were on.
I call it unlocking a part of your brain. Like this door opens, you're like, wait a minute. What if, right? I feel good in the morning when one of my sentences starts with what if. I'm like, okay, then I'm tuned in correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been great to meet you. Thank you.
Of course. Okay, I'm gonna